Hey, how's it going, everyone? It's time for another Master Mentorship game analysis video, so let's get straight to the games. This first one was submitted by Mike. Looks like you have the white pieces here, so let's take a look. Let's see, we get a Owen defends, e4, b6, you grab space, bishop d3, that's what I play against this too. I think it's nice to kind of keep this knight flexible for at least one more turn, see what black kind of intends. Okay, they play e6, and yeah, here we kind of have a choice. We can play knight c3, but then we're allowing bishop b4. Yeah, knight f3 makes sense to me. Again, just kind of staying flexible on the queen side for now and getting closer to castling. You can also play for setups with either f4 or c4, grabbing even more space in the center. So let's see. Knight f3, knight f6, queen e2. Okay, I kind of like this approach. Like you said, just defending this pawn, but also not allowing this bishop to get involved for the fight for the e4 square. Because this opening is really all about all of black's pressure on e4, right? So let's see. c5. Okay, h3 definitely feels wrong because I don't understand the point. Like, we're not afraid of knight g4. Knight g4 is absolutely useless here, right? There's no concern there at all. So black just attacked our central pawn. I would definitely be considering c3, e5, maybe even d5, although probably not. But you got to think, we have this kind of lead in development, more space in the center. We have to think about using it somehow. And if we're not going to use it, then that's fine, but then we can just castle. We don't have to waste a move playing h3. Like I always teach, in the video, of course, whenever there's pawn tension, you have to ask for all three options, right? We can take, we can push, or we can just maintain the tension or do something else. Maybe, e5, c3 to maintain the tension, castles. But I don't understand what h3 does. You said no idea. Let's see. You weren't too worried about the pawn because you had the knight to take back. Yeah, that's true. Although, if they take, I would kind of like to be able to take with the pawn just to maintain our full center. So c3 could be considered. But there might be some merit to taking with the knight. That's true, too. So let's see. So they do exchange. They play bishop b4 check. Let's see. You considered the pawn, but you didn't want to double your pawns on the c-file. Well, I feel like the bishop just has no right to be here if we still have our pawn on c2. I feel like we're just going to play c3 and drive the bishop back. Maybe you don't want to take away the best square from the knight, so there could be some logic to bishop d2. So let's see how this plays out. I think this is all still reasonable. White's probably a bit better here. Okay, they retreat. Okay, you move it again. We could also play just knight b3 and kind of get a tempo on the bishop. I think that would also make some sense. So let's see, bishop e3. Oh yeah, does this hang the e4 pawn? There is a concern here about that, isn't it? Oh, and that's what they played in the game. Did you see this beforehand? I think you just missed knight takes e4 here, that e4 is now undefended. Because I'm not sure if queen g4 with the double attack is going to work out tactically. But whether it does or not, if you didn't see it beforehand, then that's the problem, right? You always have to look for the opponent's checks, captures, and threats. So let's see. Okay, we hang the e4 pawn. Maybe we have some way out of it. Let's see. Queen g4. Oh, castles. Aha, okay, so if we take, then they're going to play, I guess, f5. But that still is bad for them. We can even take on f5. So let's see. Takes. Oh, they just exchange? Well, now we're up a queen piece, so I think it should just be a win. But let's just make sure. I'd be a little scared of queen f4 just because I'm worried about, like, forks and stuff down the road. Why not just queen g4? Just eye the king a little bit, threaten bishop h6. Seems like a more natural square, possibly. So let's see. Queen f4, knight a6. Oh, you said you don't remember why you went there. Okay. Yeah, stop being so terrified of knights hopping in with no calculation. Again, it's fine to be concerned about it, but then you have to calculate it. You have to calculate and make sure that it's so bad for you. Like, that's the whole thing. I don't feel like you're really calculating very much. You're just kind of playing off instincts. You're not really asking for all your opponent's checks, captures, or threats every turn. And that doesn't only hurt you when you miss tactics. That's the biggest way it hurts you. But it also hurts you because, okay, you're worried about knight g4. That's great. You have the concern in your head. Now, where's the calculation to back it up? If you ask yourself, okay, what if I just play a move I want to play? What if I castles? Okay, let's calculate. Knight g4, what does it do? Well, nothing. So I definitely am not going to play h3 and prevent it because it doesn't do anything. So just calculate more. That's the advice I'm probably going to give you just based on this. I don't really see very much in the way of calculation, but that's okay. Something to work on. So we're up a piece. a3, fine. Okay, I really just want to finish development, though. We're making so many, like, random moves, moving the knight all over the place, bishop e2, bishop e3. We're still not castled, and we could have castled on, like move 5. So, yeah, now we're allowing them to play e5 with tempo. What does the knight even do on b5? I'm kind of curious to see the comment here. You saw a nice opportunity to grab an outpost. And if the knight moves away, you can fork the rooks. Yeah, but again, this is a nice idea, but there's no calculation backing this up. Did you consider e5 just kind of getting in your way? So let's see. Queen g5. Okay. Yeah, we're still not castled. A bit nervous about that. Okay, going pawn grabbing feels kind of greedy here, but maybe we can get away with it. Yeah, I know it attacks the pawn and threatens the rook. That's good. It's move 20 and we're still not castled. But let's see. Also, there's knight d3 concerns, isn't there? That looks kind of annoying. Knight d3 hitting b2, the king, and f2. Isn't that a problem? I think it's a problem. Knight takes a7. What actually happens here on knight d3? Because then they're going to follow up with knight takes f2, forking our queen and rook, right? And I don't see that mentioned in the annotation. So let's see. We take. They just take. We take the rook. Well, now they can take our bishop with check and then still take the knight. Well, no, because if they take the knight, then we take the bishop. But there's a lot to calculate here. And again, I don't really see any calculation in the annotation. So let's see. They take on b2. Okay, they finally do find knight d3. They take. Okay, we just trade queens. Okay, and do we win this, right? Or no, we don't. Okay, they have a lot of pawns. Okay, bishop f2. Yeah, so I think the biggest thing, like I said, is there's just no calculation going on here. Like, this last little sequence was a very, very pivotal moment in the game, in my opinion. This whole situation here with knight c1, and I see a bunch of moves with no comments, and I don't really see any calculated lines. Like, I don't see any moment here where you're like, okay, here's my opponent's 3 candidate moves, here's what I intended to do against each one. It's kind of like playing on intuition, which I'm guilty of too, even all the way up to like the expert level. I had this flaw where I relied too much on intuition and I wasn't calculating every single turn. Every single turn you have to calculate. It's not just for tactics and, forks, pins, and skewers. Like I said, even here on h3, there's no tactic in this position, but you still have to calculate to justify your plan and make sure there's no, move that concerns you. So really work on that. Calculate every single turn. Before you ever play a move, you have to ask for all your opponent's candidate moves, what you would play in response, what they would play in response, and really include these calculated lines, these variations in the annotations, instead of just kind of intuitive thoughts you have about the position. I think that'll really revolutionize the way you think about chess and really help you out. But good game. Keep it up. Looking forward to seeing what questions you have or any other games you play after you really work on that the move-by-move calculation. All right, next up, we got a game here from Brent. Welcome to the program, Brent. We've got the black pieces here, so let's take a look. Okay, playing a Sicilian. Okay, and they're playing, I think this is called like the Prinz variation, right? Yeah, the Prinz. Okay, yeah, e5, I believe is the main move. Knight e2, interesting. So I don't really know too much about this setup. I do play f3 myself after black plays a6, like the English attack against the Najdorf. But here, I think black can often succeed in getting this d5 break-in eventually. So let's see how we go for this. Okay, bishop e6 makes sense to me. Okay. Oh, and they're going to play... Okay, they want to play it like a Maroczy bind. Can we play d5 right now? I just feel like white has no development. They spent all these moves with the knight, and they have no other pieces. Can we just punish them for that and just break? Like, usually we can't break too early in the Sicilian because white always gets this big lead in development, right? They have these 2 open bishops. But here, because white didn't develop, I'm wondering if this is just good for us. I think we're just going to play d5, and what does white do? If they don't take, we can take. We can even play d4 and have a space advantage. If they do take, this just looks good for us. We have the full center. This pawn on f3 looks stupid now. It doesn't help the position at all. I'm guessing this is good. So I kind of like, punishing their little, night adventure here with the quick d5. I know you're talking about trying to transpose, but that's a big kind of no-no when it comes to opening preparation. When the opponent plays something we don't expect, it's very tempting to think about, okay, how can I steer this back towards something I do expect, towards my preparation, instead of really evaluating what's wrong with what they did and trying to exploit it. So I think d5 is a missed opportunity. So let's see. Now we're playing more of like this Maroczy bind kind of hedgehog setup. Although, the knight's still kind of misplaced, at least to me. So let's see. Castles, knight c3, a6. Makes sense. We're getting this kind of Najdorf-ish structure. Bishop d3, queen c7. These moves kind of play themselves. Good. Okay, and yeah, I think this works tactically. That's kind of the whole thing in this setup, that we have to get one of the 3 breaks in, right? D5 is kind of the most desirable, but also the hardest, and then you can also play for B5 or F5, and I think B5 works tactically here. They can't take because the knight's hanging. They probably should have done something about that, but they didn't. So now we're going to soften up the C4 pawn and kind of play against it. So, okay, takes. Oh, I see. Well, we can still isolate the pawn. We can trade and then trade the queens, and they're going to have this isolated C pawn. Takes. Good. Okay. Oh, they want F6 for the knight. I wonder if we just take with the knight here, or if you really want C5 for the knight. I could see that argument too. Also B6 for the knight. But okay, let's see how this plays out. Bishop takes F6, knight D5. I think we can take the pawn. Okay, we win a pawn. Good. Okay, having the bishop kind of dominate the knight. Very common pattern to know. When the bishop's 3 squares away, it dominates all the squares that the knight could hop into. And you thought you could quickly exchange with knight B5. I'm guessing you mean knight B6. Makes sense. Let's see how this goes. Okay, they attack D6. Yeah, that pawn's really our only concern. That's the only weakness we have in the position. So, well, why are we letting them take it? Could we not play... Oh, on rook c6, I see. They have knight e7. That is kind of a problem. So I guess this is kind of a miscalculation that we just missed knight f5. Maybe here we have to play like g6 first if we anticipate that. But okay, you miss it. Let's see what happens. Okay. Okay, so material's back to equal. The pawn structure is symmetrical. Maybe black's a little better because our rooks are kind of more active for the time being. But you're right, you want your knight to be active, so let's see how this plays out. Okay, rook b5. Okay, trying to possibly hop to the d4 outpost. White might want the d5 outpost. I'm guessing it's just roughly equal, but we'll see how this in-game plays out. Okay, I think that makes sense. Possibly even aiming for knight b3 at the right moment. Okay, good. Check. Okay. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, they blunder a pawn. Yeah, that's usually how this plays out. I mean, it's a roughly symmetrical position. You kind of shuffle around a little bit. Probably in a tournament, it's going to be a draw, but of course, online, time trouble tends to be more of a factor. And you make them blunder a pawn, and okay, they blunder another pawn, and you win. Okay, yeah, nice job sticking in there and winning the game. I just think you had some maybe missed opportunities earlier. I think you missed knight f5 and the power of that move. And then I think in the opening, the quick d5 might have even been a better version for you. Although the way you played was good too. I really liked the b5 idea. Getting one of those breaks in tactically, very important in this pawn structure. And I think after you isolate the c pawn, I mean, black's just much better here. It's just a matter of finding the best way to pressure the pawn without allowing too much counterplay with knight f5 ideas and stuff like that. But yeah, nice win. Next up, we got a game here from Aaran. Looks like you have the black pieces, so let's go ahead and flip it around. And here we go. Okay, 4 knights. So bishop c4 is known to be not so great in the 4 knights. First of all, you can play bishop b4 and threaten the remove the defender thing, and their bishop really isn't on its best square here. White almost always plays bishop b5 or d4 in the 4 knights. That's the Spanish 4 knights and the Scotch 4 knights. Definitely check out my video. Just type in chess pathways 4 knights game on YouTube, and I explain a lot more there. But on bishop c4, we can either play bishop b4, or we can actually wipe out white's center. We can play knight takes e4. Looks like a piece sacrifice, but we get the piece back. That's the whole point with d5, and this is known to be pretty pleasant for black. You can also look into that line as well. I think I probably mentioned it in that video. But let's see. Castles, a6. No, we definitely want a castle here. Time is everything in these, open board kind of positions. And I'm not worried about driving the bishop back. I mean, the bishop's just as good on b3 as it is on c4. Unless maybe you're hoping you can, trap it and trade it off for the knight. But we're not even ready to do that because this knight is needed to guard our e5 pawn. And meanwhile, white's going to be playing rook e1, maybe trying to blow the center open. Maybe you can get away with it, but I'd rather play castles. So let's see. Okay, they play a4. I guess I'd be kind of happy to see this now. I feel like throwing in these moves kind of favors you, because now you have permanent access to the b4 square. So let's see. d6. Okay, makes sense. d3. h6. Okay. Bishop e3. Knight d4. I think this is all fine. White's playing the 4 knights very unambitiously with just d3 and bishop c4, so we can probably get away with quite a bit here. I would just be worried that if we do delay castling, a player with white could try to blow the center open at some point. But let's see. h3, yeah, you're hoping they'll fall for the fork, but of course they don't. h3, and then h5, interesting. Yeah, what's going on here? We're just walking right into the white queen. So it sounds from your annotation that you did some calculation here, which is good. You saw that the queen's eyeing the knight, you saw that knight takes d4 is possible, and you calculated this line where they win a piece, we win a piece, they win a piece, and now we win a piece on e3 or c3. I'm guessing we take here, and you evaluated this as possibly good for you, but I think the problem is there's checkmate at the end. I think you didn't calculate far enough. I think white could have punished you with this line. Oh, and good, I think you realized that. I'm just reading the end of your annotation here. You mentioned that you didn't see the line far enough. You ended up with white having the ability to pair his queen and bishop to attack f7. Really good. That's really good that after the game you were able to reflect and figure that out. That's what I love to see in these annotations. So let's see what happened in the game. They played knight takes e5 instead. I think knight takes d4 is even better because it wins a piece and it's more forcing, just with the checkmate at the end. But this still looks promising for white for sure. So let's see. We take. So we lost a pawn, and f7's under attack, and now we have to castle. Yes, okay, we only lost a pawn. I think we could have lost a piece if white found the best refutation. Here we lost a pawn, and I guess it's going to be 2 pawns after queen takes e5, so still very bad for us. Although c2's hanging too, so, maybe we have some chances here. Let's see. Queen takes e5, b6. Yeah, I guess we don't have time for knight takes c2 because, the bishop's hanging and we have no way to deal with that. We can't even play like bishop d6 to save the bishop because we can't meet queen takes d4 with bishop h2 and taking because the bishop, of course, defends the queen. So, okay, it is 2 clean pawns. That should be lost for us, but let's see if you can fight back. d5. Okay, they still give us c2. Takes. We got one of the pawns back. Okay, right back to our outpost. Makes sense. They win a pawn, but we fork them. Okay? So lots of missed tactics here. That's pretty common at this rating level. It's just a matter of becoming more tactically consistent, not making the blunders yourself, capitalizing on your opponents, and that's how you can really, climb up the rating ladder at this point. And you're doing a great job. Just from my games against you, I can tell you've gotten so much better just in a month or two. So definitely keep doing what you're doing. Here, yeah, by point count, I think we equalized. We're down 2 pawns, but we're up the exchange, right? A rook for a minor piece. So by point count, that's equal. But of course, whenever there's a material imbalance, that's not the full story. Here, I feel like white's minor pieces are really active, and it's hard for our rooks to be active. So when you're up the exchange, when you have 2 rooks against 1, you really want to have active rooks. So I still feel like white's probably quite a bit better here, but I'm curious what we do to get these rooks involved in the game. So let's see. Rook e8, okay, makes sense. Yeah, I'm just worried because it's very hard for this rook to really activate on this file. And this knight, the knight's very strong, the bishop's very strong. I feel like the minor pieces and 2 extra pawns are better than our 2 versus 1 advantage as far as rooks go. But let's see how this goes. Okay, they play knight f5, and I think you just... Okay, yeah, you missed the attack on f7 here. You play queen g5, you just miss it. Okay, too busy being thrilled. Okay, it happens. Rook d8. Yeah, see, the bishop does such a good job of blocking off the rook and hitting our rook. Rook takes d5. Let's see. Okay, we're getting tired by this point. You've been playing over an hour. You didn't consider any other possible lines. Isn't this good, though? If they take with the pawn, we get 2 pieces for a rook. That's great. If they take with the queen, then they can't take our rook because we take with check. So as long as you saw that, this move looks great to me. I'm going to go ahead and give it an exclamation mark. So let's see. They take the rook, we take the piece. Now we're up a piece. They have several pawns for it, but, a piece is a piece. Okay, we develop the bishop. Okay, good. Threatening checkmate. Okay, is there any way to get this rook involved in the game? Queen d4 seems like you just want to guard g7, which makes sense, but we have to get our pieces involved. So I'd be more inclined to consider a move like even possibly rook c8 or rook e8, as long as you calculate it and make sure it works. Because remember, there's no real threat to the bishop. The bishop's defended. So I don't feel like it's necessary to move the queen again. We have to get this rook involved. So let's see. Okay, defend it. Don't trade queens. I think that makes sense even though we're up a piece because I think we have real chances to play for checkmate. Plus they have so many pawns, the endgame might still not be an easy win by any means. Okay, they start pushing their majority. Check. We activate the rook finally. I don't like that it's playing a defensive role. But maybe you just want to play like queen f1. Okay, it seems like that's kind of what you play for in the game. So b5, queen f1, makes sense. Okay, f3, that really softens up their king, so we come back to the open file. I think this all makes sense. Although, I wonder if we should trade first and just not give them 2 passed pawns, but maybe it's not a big deal. Let's see. Because they're double pawns, so, bishop takes f3. Does this work? You play it with no annotation. It's a good idea, but isn't there... I'm worried about queen f5. So what happens on queen f5? Queen f5... I mean, we have to move the king or play g6, and then don't they just take on f3? Oh, but then we have queen e5. I'm not sure if you calculated that beforehand. If you did, that's great. I don't think you did, though, because I don't see that mentioned in your annotations. I think you just missed queen f5. But I think queen f5 fails, because after they take, we have queen e5, which is really cool. So, okay, I guess let's see how this plays out. Okay, but now they get the piece, don't they? Okay, they win the piece back. We're down a pawn. Equal now. I'm a little bit worried about the king, but I think we can defend this, and it should be a draw, I think. Okay, easy draw at this point. I'll just make sure. Wait a minute, what's going on? Yeah, there's no need to do anything here. Just shuffle forever, and the game's over. There's no need to play something like this. Let's see. Rook h4. Even still, this doesn't seem easy for white to win. So what happens here? Or maybe it is now, because we might lose both pawns. Yeah, it's kind of a problem. Okay, so one move blunder, it happens. Yeah, so this whole game, I think that's kind of the common theme, and it's the common theme for this rating level in general. You've gotten a ton better at it, it's just there's always a long way to go. Just how chess works. Keep practicing your calculation, get more consistent. I felt like you kind of got a little sloppy there towards the end. I think you messaged me asking, do I have any advice for how to kind of build up your stamina for these longer games, and I think it's just a matter of playing them more often. A lot of players, especially these days online, they play a lot of blitz and rapid chess, don't get too much experience with the longer time controls, but the more you play them, the more natural it's going to feel. Just really budget your time, and really develop the discipline where it doesn't take that much mental energy to follow the thought process. It's just kind of second nature, that you just can't play a move without asking for all the opponent's, possibilities, all their candidate moves, their checks, captures, threats, pawn breaks. And over time, it becomes second nature once you practice it a lot. But keep it up. You're definitely moving in the right direction. Next up, we got a game here from James. Let's flip it around. Here we go. Okay, Karo Khan, I can help you with this. Okay, well, maybe not with this. I don't play this. I know some people think this line's not sound, but it's definitely interesting. Yeah, bishop f5, of course, is the main move. c5, this is like the Botvinnik-Karls variation, I think it's called. Yeah, just trying to immediately strike at the pawn chain, even though you just played c6 2 moves ago. Really, making the most of this like advanced French kind of structure here. We know one of the main ideas is the quick c5, so why not play it right away? And yeah, I think white's biggest challenge to this is just taking the pawn. And okay, let's see how this goes. So knight c6, threatening to get the pawn back. Bishop e5. I think this is some kind of theory. Let's actually check and see how often it's been played. Yeah, many times. You probably know this line. e6, threatening the c5 pawn. Takes, b4. I'm not so sure if white's supposed to take on c6 so early in this line, though. That feels premature, because we already can't break the pin, so why take our pinned piece for no reason? Has this ever been played? Okay, a couple times. Yeah, I'm sure bishop takes c6 is not popular. And, okay, you played knight e7, and it sounds like you want to, just pressure the e5 pawn. I'm just worried it's a bit slow. I do think that a5 is probably a better idea, just trying to tear down this pawn chain. But okay, let's see how it goes. Knight e7, knight f3, knight g6. Yeah, I just think that they're going to have not too much trouble defending this pawn. And now our bishop really has nowhere to go. Okay, and this, we're targeting the b4 pawn, but it's not a backwards pawn because white has c and a pawn, so I'm not sure this is really going to pay off. They're just going to play a3, c3, right? Yeah, a3, a5, c3, and I think they have everything under control. Yeah, so I think the thing is, we have to play more urgently when white tries to grab a pawn like this, because if we just play like knight e7, knight g6, I'm just worried they're going to consolidate and just stay up a pawn forever, and now our bishop's going to have real trouble. Also, the knight on g6, in a lot of openings, unless there's a real concrete reason for it there, it's not a great square for a knight, because it has no access, and it even runs into h4, h5 sometimes, really being driven back to a bad square. So let's see how this plays out. Okay, takes. I'm not sure if that helps our case, though. That just helps them connect pawns. I think I would leave the pawns where they are. I don't see any need to take here. And you play it without comment. Yeah, because they're not going to take or push. That would be horrible for them. That would split up all their pawns. So let's leave their pawns doubled for now. Keep them guessing. Maybe we're going to play this in the future at some point, but no need to play it right now. Maybe force them to play like queen a4 or something to, force us to clarify the situation. Don't do it for them. Let's see. Takes, bishop a6. Okay, yeah, takes. Now they have this protected passed pawn on c5. I'm not sure if this was the best way to play, but I know it's already kind of hard to play this for black because, like I said, your bishop just seems to have no scope. But this seems very, very good for white. White's up a pawn. Their pawns are all healthy. We fixed their double pawns, and we made one of their pawns a protected passed pawn. And b5's isolated, so this should be pretty hard. So let's see. Queen c2, castles. Okay, they're targeting b5 potentially. Okay. Okay, yeah, we eventually break, but I think you missed e6 falls, unless I'm missing something. Oh, maybe they have no way to take it, because I guess we get this tempo on the bishops. Maybe that's good. Okay, that makes sense. Just as long as you calculated this kind of beforehand, that they can't really take on e6 too easily. So, okay, that makes sense. Good, I'm glad we finally have some scope for the pieces, at least. Maybe we can look to play e5, e4, and grab some space, but it's going to be hard, because white has a lot of these squares under control. Okay, queen e3, rook e8, and e5 takes. Rook f7 makes sense. Takes. Yeah, I just feel like their pawns are probably going to win the game because they can make these connected passed pawns, but I'll see if anything changes. Yeah, this looks very hard. Yeah, the rooks never love playing this role. This is not what rooks do. Now here, did they blunder? Don't we have rook takes c6? I feel like they have to not allow this. They need to protect this rook. They just have to protect this rook and get their king involved, but I think they blunder here. Oh, maybe not. Well, no, I think they do. Takes here. They don't have this because we have this, and they can't play rook c1 here. So I think they blundered. Let me just make sure I'm not seeing things here. Don't we have rook takes c6? Yeah, we have rook takes c6, and black's fine. We get our pawn back. So I think you missed that we had a chance here to make white pay. And I think we continued to have that chance for a while, but now it's gone, for sure. Okay. Yeah, now we can't even do it, because the rook defends everything, and we're down 3 pawns. So this should be helpless now. Okay, and they're probably going to make a queen at some point. Okay, and they do. We did have that one chance with rook takes c6, but I'm kind of curious what happened in the opening there, because more than anything, this game kind of felt like an opening problem. So this should be good for us, like after they voluntarily give it away. I just feel like bringing the knight to g6 isn't right, because we're not actually going to get that much pressure on the e5 pawn. So let's investigate a5. I think there could even be ideas like on c3 here. They can't play a3, of course, because there's a pin. But on c3, I wonder if now even like takes, and queen h4 could work. I know I saw in the database a queen h4 idea had been tried on this line. Threatening like queen takes b4, threatening queen e4 with a 3-way fork. Seems kind of hard for white's position to hold together. What would they actually play here? Is there a way they can stop all of our threats? I'm not immediately seeing one, so this might be the right way to go. I just think the knight g6, 97 idea is kind of slow. I'm kind of curious to see if a computer thinks our position is really so bad in this position, because it might already be. Okay, I think that white's moderately better. Maybe not too late to switch to the a5 idea. Like I said, I thought that rook b8 is really where things went wrong. I'm kind of curious to see if the computer agrees. Yeah, it kind of doubles white's advantage after rook b8. Because this isn't the way to pressure the pawn. There's always a3 and c3. We have to make use of like the pin on the a file and this kind of stuff. So I think that's where things kind of went wrong. We gave them this extra pawn in the opening and never really fought back sufficiently. We did have one chance to fight back with the rook takes c6 tactic and missed it, and white won the game. But good game. Next up, I got a game here from Aaran. Not annotated, but I'll still take a look because you sent me kind of a lengthy email explaining some of your thoughts. I think your main question was about like what was the right time to switch into attack mode. So to speak, how to translate your positional advantage to kind of a more attacking one, tactical one. So I can definitely try to take a look at the moment where that happened, just real quick, and try to point you in the right direction. So this is all kind of normal, ready stuff, I believe. I know you've been studying this quite a bit. I just want to kind of come to the moment. Okay, so you win a piece here, right? So I mean, you've already kind of converted your positional advantage into a tactical one. If you just find c5. Takes, looks good for us. We are up a piece for 2 pawns. Just have to be a little careful about pins and stuff, but we should be able to neutralize it. Okay, makes sense. Okay. Okay, I'd probably start trying to get the rooks involved somehow with like rook c1, but this is still good. Okay, I'm just wondering where the knight's going. I know this is like a common idea in the ready, but the thing is, things have changed. Black has the whole center now. They have 2 extra pawns, even though we're up a piece. So I'm not sure if any of this knight f5 stuff is ever going to work. There's no pressure on the d-pawn. So I feel like this might be kind of playing on autopilot a bit, just using normal ready ideas, but we already transformed the position with this c5 fork. We gave up all the center pawns to win a piece, which is good, but it kind of has to affect how we play after this point. So don't play on autopilot. Okay, why the f-rook? That just doesn't feel natural to me. Black has so much central control here, we're probably going to want to have the flexibility to put a rook on d1 or even e1 if we have to, if some files open up and stuff. So that feels wrong to me just based on the specific position. So I think that's the biggest feedback so far. I feel like you're kind of autopiloting your ready ideas, even though the position's changed a lot. But you're still better here. You're up a piece, so let's see how it goes. Okay, e4, I like it. Okay. Okay, makes sense. Okay, this all looks good. Okay. As long as there's no, like, scary c4 idea followed by c3. Does that not work? I think it might work now if it was black's turn, but okay, we keep it under control. Rook c1, pressuring the c-pawn, that could be a target. Yeah, very much in the ready style. Four pawns attacking the c-pawn. Good, a pawn break, I like it. As long as it's safe, and I think it is. So let's see. Okay, good. Okay, takes. Yeah, I mean, c4 is kind of the concern, like I said, if black can play that safely. I think we're not going to lose anything, though, so it's probably okay. Okay. Oh, I like that. Just giving the pawn back in a better way to keep their pawn split up. Good idea. Okay, going after b5, takes. Okay. I mean, it looks like you're playing very well here, honestly. Okay, trade. Okay. Wow, okay. Very nice. Yeah, very temporary pawn sacrifice with the knight f3 idea in mind. Very good. Okay. I'll just see if anything changes. I think this is... Well, is it a win for you? I think it is. Queen... Maybe it's not that simple. So this is a critical moment here, right? What's going on? e3... Okay, so we take... Or no, we don't take. We don't take because of... well, actually, why don't we take? If we take here, queen, isn't that a better version for us, or am I missing something? I think taking might have been better, but I'll just quickly see how this kind of pans out. Okay, we take eventually, and now we have to play the queen-knight versus queen pure endgame with no pawns. Should be a draw, but there's many winning chances, especially in Blitz. Not sure what the time control was here. It's probably like a rapid game. I don't know that I'd accept the draw, though. Make black play it on a little bit. Knights can be tricky. There's all kinds of forks and stuff to worry about. Is there any way to walk the king out of perpetual? I'm just trying to see. Like, they can't check us on the file now, so what do? I'm just trying to quickly see any way to extract our king. It's going to be hard, but I think we can play this on. All in all, though, I think that was a pretty impressive game. Without the annotations, it's hard to see exactly like where the moment was, where you were thinking about. That you kind of felt like you struggled with. But overall, you did some things really well that game. The pressure on the c-pawn, winning the piece. Just don't autopilot. Be careful of that. I felt like you tried to play out like a ready kind of position, even after the position was radically transformed by you winning the piece. Looks like a pretty good game to me. Next up, we got a game from our tournament. Mike versus Will, annotated by Will. So let's flip it around and do it from your perspective. Okay, we get a French defense, Steinitz variation, and f5. I'm not sure if anyone plays f5. No, they don't. It's been tried twice out of 9,600 games. Yeah, so, everyone plays c5 here, and it sounds like you know that. Let me see your explanation. So it sounds like you knew c5 was kind of normal, but you just wanted to get creative, I guess. So f5 is interesting. So white has a choice here. They can take on passant or not. I think it's kind of tempting to take on passant, because they're going to have pressure on the backwards e-pawn kind of permanently, right? And this outpost on e5. I'm pretty sure this is just good for white. Because now, the bishop's bad. It's hard to ever play e5. They're just going to play knight f3, bishop somewhere, castle, rook e1, plop a knight on e5 at some point, or just play against this pawn. Seems kind of easy for white to play. But they can also maintain the center, and it's kind of like a check Benoni kind of position, where it's going to be all about the flanks. It's all about like pawn breaks, because you can't play in the center. So let's see how it goes. Okay, a pawn break, good. Okay. Oh yeah, I remember looking at this game with Mike before, actually, but I think this is the first time I'm looking at it for you, Will. Yeah, so I remember seeing this, and I think knight c5 is kind of a moment where white kind of incurs this pawn that's very hard to protect. Let me actually see your annotations and see what you think along the way here. I think this all makes sense. You mentioned at one moment your plan was to lock in... Well, you wanted to play c4. I'm not sure if c4 is the right plan unless you want to like pawn storm the whole way. Because I think you like having this pressure on the center, so I'm not sure if that's always going to be the best plan. Like here, I feel like if white just doesn't play knight c5, I thought white should just switch back to the king side maybe and start looking to play for like rook g1, g4, and all this kind of stuff. I thought that might be more promising, but I think knight c5, I mean, the c pawn might be too weak. So okay, queen b5. You said you've also looked at retreating the queen to c7 or d8. Makes sense. Yeah, you can't play bishop takes c5, I don't think, because they would trade and then win, which you saw, so that's good. So okay, we're still targeting c5, we're targeting b2. We just defend b2 and we take. Okay. So we're up a pawn, right? And you can defend it with b5. So we have this very strong 3-on-2 kind of pawn majority. Let's see how this plays out. Rook fd1. Okay, you're interested in queen f2. Yeah, not sure if it works. Feels like kind of a one-move queen attack. I think the bigger advantage is your long-term, 3-on-1 kind of majority. So let's see. Rook d6. Sounds like you were more worried about rook d7. Yeah, they're both kind of concerning moves. Yeah, and this was very instructive when I looked at this with Mike. So yeah, I think what white has to do here is bring everything to bear against this e6 pawn. I think knight g5 is the big concern. And okay, very good, you mentioned this. Yeah, you said you were surprised by h4. You thought knight g5 might be the move that gives more counterplay, and I think knight g5 right away is better, because then it's knight g5, queen h3. I think white actually gets very serious counterplay. Again, this is really the whole downside of playing the early f5, right? e6 is kind of a target forever, and that would really be a nice way to gang up on e6, gang up on h7. h4, I know I talked to Mike, and he said he didn't really have a clear follow-up in mind. He just kind of wanted to push pawns and expose the king. But I think playing with pieces is more promising here. Knight g5, queen h3. So let's see. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a big improvement if we can route the knight into the d5 square. f4 falls, and with it, probably the game, because they don't think white can hold this position together. Yeah, so some very interesting moments there. Overall, you played a good game. Congrats on the win. I'm not sure if this f5 idea is entirely sound. Seems like no one plays it. e6 could have been a concern, but in the end, you pulled through. So good job. Next up, you got a game here from Todd, so let's take a look. Okay, playing the Panov against the Caro-Kann. Okay. I've never seen someone play the Panov and delay knight c3. That's kind of automatic in the Panov. But I think we're going to be likely to transpose and just get a standard IQP kind of position. So let's see. Okay. Should you have taken here? I feel like we're getting a not so great version of this. The whole thing is, if you want the isolated queen's pawn, you kind of have to play in a more aggressive fashion, right? Trying to play against the king and stuff like that. Here, black just has this great blockade on the light squares. And, if black trades off all the minor pieces, you're going to end up with lots of pressure here on the d-file to deal with against this pawn. So, yeah, it might be kind of a minor concern. I just don't really understand delaying knight c3 this long, but it's probably okay. I mean, you play it now. We're fine. It's not like we're lost, especially because the bishop's blocked in. I'd be more concerned if they have the bishop on g4. But it's probably okay. It's a standard IQ piece. Let's see how it goes from here. The middle game is going to be the real battle. Okay. Playing to get your knight to an active square makes sense. Very often in this setup, you kind of line up with, the bishop and queen on this diagonal. You try to provoke either g6 or h6, and then you go from there. If they play g6, you can look to play, h4, h5. You can lift rooks at some point. Knight e5 is certainly an idea. But you try to play kind of aggressively because, again, in the long term, this pawn kind of hurts you. So knight e5, you offer to transform the pawn structure to one where you get this isolated c pawn after knight takes, and the queens come off. Kind of like what's going on in our game. I believe the same kind of thing is happening in your game against me right now. And that's what they do. Okay. Oh, but they just play queen a5. Well, I think if nothing else, we have queen d4. You said you saw you're down a pawn here. I'm not entirely sure about that. Are you really losing a pawn? Maybe you are. There's no queen c4 or anything. Is that too greedy? Maybe they play... Well, what do they actually play against queen c4? I'm not sure we're losing a pawn yet. But okay, queen e4. Maybe we just want to play for an attack, which I think is what happens. Okay, takes, bishop d3, good. We provoke g6 or something, so that's good. Great, and now they're super weak on the dark squares. That's what we want. So let's go play bishop h6, or bishop g5. That makes sense too. Trying to play bishop f6 and come in on the dark squares. So we're down a pawn. We have an attack. Kind of a common imbalance in chess. Let's see how it plays out. Let's see. And good, yeah, you calculated both this and bishop h6. Those should definitely be the two candidate moves. Let's see. So we don't want to trade queens, for sure. Okay, makes sense. Threatening bishop g6. To get off of it. Okay. Rook b8. Interesting. So they just want to play bishop b7. I feel like they're playing kind of slow here, though. I just really want to come in on the dark squares as soon as possible. Rook e1 makes sense. Yeah, now they gave the bishop access to f8, which is important. Okay, stopping bishop e7 and threatening bishop c6. I like that idea for sure. They take a pawn. Good. Okay, good. Yeah, if we can force this, that's really good for us, because now they can't play bishop f8. Black could look just to sack the exchange at the right moment, because they're already up 2 pawns. It's not the end of the world if they lose the exchange. They're going to have some compensation. Here, I'm really worried about their dark squares. So let's see. Yeah, queen f6, threatening mate, right? You did notice queen takes f7. Oh, interesting. Queen takes f7. I didn't even think about that. Queen takes f7. Queen takes f7. Oh, you're talking about f2. Sorry. Yeah, I got confused there. Yeah, but it's defended for now, so we don't want to allow that. But I think it's safe for now. So, okay, queen f6, threatening bishop h6. Oh, and they give us a piece. Okay. Wait, why can't we take the piece? So if we just take on f2, well, I guess black has 3 pawns for the piece. That could be kind of the argument, right? If we take and trade queens, they have 3 pawns for a piece. So I guess I understand not wanting to go for that. Certainly king f1 is out, because there's bishop a6. So king h1, this could be good, but only if it's really that hard for them to stop the checkmate threat. So let's just see how this plays out. Oh, can they do that? I thought bishop h6 just wins. Okay, it is. Okay, good. Good. Awesome. Yeah, as long as they have no way to stop the mate, then I guess we're fine just playing king h1. I was just worried they had... Well, I guess they don't have king h8, rook g8, because their king is... they can't come there. So is mate just unstoppable? I guess it is. So in light of that, yeah, certainly king h1's the right move. Way better than getting, the piece for the 3 pawns. So good game. Kind of a very typical IQP kind of position, actually. You kind of lost the pawn earlier than you often do. But in the end, black was maybe a bit too greedy. They allowed you to provoke g6, and then you killed him on the dark squares. Very common attacking idea. Awesome. Last up, we got a couple games here from Gerrome, some annotated tournament games from the NBA Super Tornado. I've been looking forward to taking a look, so let's see how this went. And I chose to take a look at the 2 losses you sent me, because I'm hoping I can help you out. So you have the white pieces here, and we get a Rui Lopez, this kind of Cosio variation with 97. Okay. Not a huge fan of taking here, because I feel like black just gets what they want. They just get to, bring their knight over here. We don't double the pawns or anything. We lose the bishop pair. Do people play this even? Yeah, no one plays bishop takes c6 here. Only 2 times out of 516. Because I feel like it doesn't exploit the downside of this at all. The whole, congestion in black's development. So probably bishop c4 is what I would play. But okay, minor thing. Let's see how it goes. Okay, makes sense. Just developing. So usually as white, if I ever have to play d3 in an e4 opening, I'm pretty upset about that. So it sounds like you calculated d4. What are you talking about here? Your queen would be hit by black's g-pawn. Takes. Maybe you're worried about bishop f6, which is a valid concern. I mean, you gave away the pair of bishops, and now it's an open position, so that could be kind of scary. But your knight might find a good home on d5, and if they ever play c6, you can play against the backwards d-pawn. That's how I would kind of think about that. I'm just usually not happy if I have to play d3 in an e4 opening. I almost always want to play for d4. But okay, let's see how it goes. Doesn't look so bad for you. I think your pieces are reasonable. Okay, you eliminate the pair of bishops, and now we're playing this opposite bishop kind of position. So you played c3. Sounds like you're thinking about playing for d4, which does make sense. You could also just play for the f4 break. I mean, your pawns kind of point towards the king side, so you could be looking to play for f4 at the right moment. You could also play a4 and try to soften up their b-pawn a little bit. Like a4, queen b3. If they ever take, now their a-pawn's isolated. That could be another idea. But let's see, h6, rook e1. Okay, now they're tempting me to play d4 because I want to fork them, or play it with tempo at least. So let's see, queen c2. Oh, I see. You want to defend your e4 pawn. It's still not that simple though, because there's always d4 takes knight b4 with a double attack on the queen and e4 because the queen and bishop both eye it. Just have to be careful, of course. It all comes down to calculation and concreteness. Does that work? I know our rook has this x-ray. I'm just trying to calculate what actually happens on takes, queen takes e4. I'm not sure if it's safe. Okay, so queen g6. What actually happens, though? So takes, right? And now queen takes e4. I don't think this is safe for you. Unless maybe you intended to meet this with, queen takes c7. I guess that is one potential idea, but I don't think it's so great for you to trade the e-pawn for the c-pawn. Did you mention this possibility, queen takes e4? I don't think you considered queen takes e4. Let me see. You mentioned the x-ray defense. Let's see, move the bishop away. Okay, you anticipated queen g6, but I think you missed takes and takes, which looks good for black. So let's see, move the bishop away, you get the x-ray defense. You could also play d5, but I'm not sure if you want to. So let's see. Okay, we have the full center. Okay, interesting. Yeah, this is kind of a big moment here with all this tension on e4, but I think we can chase the queen away. Okay. I mean, they can still... What happens if they take? Because we can't really take back very easily at all, right? Their bishop controls it. We have no light bishop, and if we take, we have to sack the exchange, which isn't good. Plus d4 is then hanging. So I think that's kind of a concern. So let's see. Oh, and then you hang a piece. Okay, you said that was kind of the blunder of the game. Yeah, makes sense. Is there any way back from this? Maybe there is. We have a lot of pawns. Wait, why don't they take this pawn? They should definitely take this pawn. We can't take their knight because there's checkmate. So black could have just crushed all our hopes right now and taken this pawn and we probably resign. But instead they give us hope. Now we have all these pawns. And here what's going on? Shouldn't we play d6 first and then b4? Because if we play this, can't they just take on d5? Yeah, now we don't have all our pawns anymore. We just have the one protected passed pawn, which isn't nearly enough for being down a piece. So I'll just see if there's any way to come back. I'm not sure if we should be trading here because we're down a piece, but I know it's already very hard. Yeah, we're all soft on the light squares now, very ugly. Okay, trade, and they kill us. Okay, yeah, so it came down to the piece blunder. There were some other calculation issues kind of along the way, and I think the opening wasn't the best, giving away the bishop pair, but I hope that helps. And then let me check out your other game here that you sent. You had the white pieces, this one too. Another Roy Lopez. I don't like knight c3. So if you play knight c3, we're kind of going back to a four knights game almost, which I guess is fine, but especially after bishop c5 and the Roy Lopez, why not play for a quick c3, d4? Just trying to, just grab the full center. That's what I would do here. Even before castling here, you can play for like c3 and then d4. Or you can castle first, that's fine too. But knight c3 in general is like totally out of the spirit of the Roy Lopez. Like, if you want to play knight c3, play a four knights game. In general, of course, that's my opinion. So let's see. Okay, they play a6, you choose to double the pawns, that's okay. Again, there's pros and cons. And again, you put the pawn on d3, which I don't like. Let's see how it turns out. Okay. Okay, and eventually you play for d4. I mean, if you're going to do it, just do it right away. Your queen's fine on d4. I'm not sure why you're so afraid of your queen coming to d4 in some of these cases. Especially if they take with the bishop, which they're not going to do, by the way. But if you play d4, takes, you're afraid of bishop takes d4? I don't think black's ever going to play that, just giving away the bishop for the good knight. And if they do, why are we worried about this? The queen's fine. I mean, and if you don't like the queen here, you can always move it away. You can move it away in one turn. Plus, we have a tempo. So, I think that's fine. But okay, let's see. You eventually play d4. Okay, well, we got rid of their bishop pair. I'm not sure why they let you have it back so easily, but okay. D5, very good. So you say pawn tension alert. That's exactly how I want you guys to think, right? Whenever there's pawn tension, consider taking, consider pushing, and consider maintaining the tension. And I think all three are very valid considerations here. Although, do we just win a pawn? What about bishop takes f6? Bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, e takes d5, wins a pawn, I think. Unless I'm missing something. So I think that's probably the answer. So let's see. You play e5 instead. Yeah, I mean, there's advantages for that too. I'm just not sure if you calculated bishop takes f6. If you did and you don't like it for some reason, that's fine. But I think you didn't consider it. So let's see. Kick the knight away, queen d3. But see, now we have to worry about c5 and stuff. I'm not sure if you saw c5. Okay, it sounds like you didn't. You said... they played c5 and you said this is a great move. We never want to be surprised by opponents, checks, captures, or threats, right? That's a threat, so we should have considered it before playing our move. And now we have problems because there's potential forks and stuff after the bishop retreat. So let's see. Okay, we have to sack a piece. Not ideal, but I guess we're going to try to make the most of it. Okay. But it should be lost being down a piece, I think. I just want to see if anything changes. Again, we have some pawns for it. But it shouldn't be enough, I don't think. Okay, now we have connected passed pawns for it. But not for long, I don't think. D5's gonna fall. Or maybe not. What's going on? Why is black making this look so hard? Yeah, on queen takes c5, why do they care about our f-pawn? Shouldn't they just play queen takes d5 and this pawn should fall because they have an extra piece? I think so. But okay, they make it a little harder for themselves, I think. Although this probably just wins too. Maybe they calculated the whole way, and that's probably, I mean, that's fine too. Black's winning no matter what, I think. As long as they don't blunder, which I don't think they did. So, okay, really came down to calculation, keeping pieces safe. I think you kind of know where things went wrong. I mean, I really like the annotations here. It sounds like you're doing some things very right here. You know, you say pawn tension alert, you think of the 3 possibilities when there's pawn tension, but even though you said that, you missed bishop takes f6. I don't think you considered it. So don't forget to also check for checks, captures, threats, not just take, push, or maintain. I know there's multiple kind of rules going on there. It's a lot to keep straight, but you'll get it with some practice. So yeah, tactics still the main thing here. I think you know that. Also, the openings were a bit goofy, but I don't think that's why you lost the game. I think it just came down to tactics in the end. So I hope just hearing how I thought about some of those key moments is going to help you out. All right, hope you enjoyed this video, everyone. Please keep the annotated games coming for the next video, and I will talk to you all soon.